right. Well, welcome everybody back to Buying Local. I'm your host, Mike Nelson from Five Towers Media. And I'm joined here today by Aaron and Kenny from Saratoga Dry Age Cuts. Is that right?
That's right.
I do that right? All right, perfect. I'm always, even with it written down, I'm always afraid I'm going to mess it up somehow. So, guys, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you jumping on and taking time out of your day to tell everybody a little bit about yourselves. Um, which, by the way, I'm super excited about learning about who you guys are and what you guys do. I'm a big meat eater, so I wouldn't say I'm full carnivore right now, but I'm pretty close, right? So interested in hearing about what you guys are doing and specifically about dry aging meat. And that's got to be obviously that's got to be a part of what you do, I assume, anyway, right? So. But before we get into all that, why don't you just go ahead and take a couple minutes and tell us who you are and what you guys do over there?
Start. Okay. So basically, we first started with just a basic concept of cutting meat and give it to the customer. And over the past 3 years, which will be 3 years in August for us, we've really expanded our full menu
Yeah.
to prepared food, subs, sandwiches, catering. Um, Pretty much anything the customer wants, we'll provide it for them. So we're kind of an open portfolio besides just a typical meat butcher shop.
Okay. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you. So you were a butcher shop first, is that correct?
Yeah, we were very basic when we first opened. We were still kind of learning as we went type, and slowly we more adapted different ideas from just our own personal experience or visiting other shops around the country. Essentially, we like their ideas, so we kind of copied them as well into ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. If it's working somewhere else, it's probably going to work for you guys
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the butcher side, because I know, like you said, you're expanding and you got a lot of other offerings, but tell me a little bit about how the butcher shop works. Now, is that like I'm just curious to kind of hear about where you are in the food chain, right? Like, do you buy meats and then you cut them, or like how does that whole process work?
So we'll buy them. They're called primal sections. So you don't get like a quarter cow or a half cow. We'll just buy like a whole, say, ribeye loin,
Hmm.
which will be somewhere around like 18 to 25 pound, depending on it. And then we'll cut all that meat into individual steaks and
Okay.
whatnot. In order to do like a whole cow or half cow, you have to have a big processing area, and our
Right.
back room isn't that big. So we just stick to the primal cuts and focus on what we can actually do.
And like when you're doing the whole cow, we'll say that kind of stuff. That's more, what do they call that? Like custom processing or something along those lines? Like
Yeah, something like that. I mean,
something
there's a
like
bunch of.
that. Yeah, yeah. But you guys don't get into that. It's really when someone's looking for, a specific cut, and
Yeah,
it sounds like a higher end cut as well.
yeah, yeah. We definitely. There's a bunch of different grades throughout the process of beef that the USDA grades the beef on, and we try to steer near the top of the pack when it comes to those selections. We try to stay above like your typical grocery store and everything like that, make it more of a specialty shop.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. You
Okay,
kind of the saying is you pay for what you get, and that's what happens here. So
awesome. And tell me a little. Well, don't tell me a little. Tell me a lot about the dry aging part. Like the what's I don't think a lot of people understand what aging does for steaks and meats, and more importantly, the difference between like dry aging and there's like there's wet aging, and which would be like marinating and things like that. So tell us a little bit about that.
here, Kenny, if you want to.
So wet aging is essentially when it's in its juices in the packaging.
Okay.
Over time, you can leave it in there, and it'll help make the meat more tender. But what we do is we work more on the dry aging process. What that does is it kind of creates a casing out on the outside of the meat. We have a special unit that um, has a controlled humidity and temperature. We track that. We track the molds. It actually creates a mold But there's edible molds, there's good molds and bad molds. So we're
Yeah.
always tracking to make sure that we don't get bad molds. And after about 28 days, it's reached full tenderness. So the meat won't get any tender. There's enzymes in there that will kind of break down the meats to make it more tender. After the 28 days, that's when you start to get the different flavors. A lot of people say they get earthy flavors, they get a nutty flavor, a more blue cheese flavor. And that just depends on the length of time and just the basic environment. We can manipulate that a little bit just by adjusting humidity levels in the ager and everything like that. But it adds a different touch than your traditional meat flavor.
Now you guys have a lot of specialty equipment for this, right? So like, so dry aging, probably not something people should try at home. Or
That's actually how we started.
It is how we started.
Oh, no kidding.
We actually, in Kenny's garage, we converted just a regular refrigerator into a dehydrator, and then we upgraded to one of those two-door glass sliding Coca-Cola machines. Yep.
And that, but it's not like you can, it's not, and because I know that when I first, years ago, when I first heard about dry aging, to me, at first I was like, wow, they're like leaving that stuff like sitting out, you know? So I just want to make sure that for the people listening, they understand that it's not, like you're saying, it's a really controlled thing, right? Like,
yeah. Basically, the meat is at a temperature right above freezing, and the humidity level is in there, so those bad enzymes won't attack the meat. What I like to tell people, I'm like very simple, with the mold aspect. There's good mold and bad mold, kind of like with cheese. Cheese, you can have good mold on cheese versus like a bad dangerous mold, where it kind of has the same effect.
It's really interesting. And so, and you said, so like 28 days, that's where that's your shorter age meats. Is that what you're?
So that's the bare minimum. So if you were to come into our shop, you would see we offer 28 and 45 day. Obviously, we're always on a sliding scale. Our 28 day, we won't put out before 28 days, but that's what the reason we do that is for people that have never had it before that want to try it. You come in, you're not going to get a strong dry aged flavor. You're going to get the feeling for the more tenderness. You may get little hints of the different dry aged flavor, but if you don't care for it, you can kind of palate your way through the rest of that meat and not hate us. Where if you jump right to the 45 day, if you don't like it, there's no going back. You're not going to be able to tolerate it. It's definitely a distinct flavor.
Yeah.
So we leave the 45 day to people that have had it, know it, love it. Obviously, if someone comes in and insists they want to start with the 45, we're not going to tell them no. We're just going to try and educate them on the basis of why we have the 28 day and the 45 day. But we've gone up and we've aged meats up
130 days. We did one. Wow. I can tell you, I love meat, and it was a little too much.
It was too far for you, yeah.
It was a good experience, but not something we'll probably do again. Yeah.
And it's just fascinating to me about the aging process and breaking it down. You know, and again, I know a little bit about it, and I'm a hunter, right? So like, you know, I know about, you know, you're going to hang a deer and you're going to leave it for a few days, kind of help that break down and make the meat a lot more tender. I just 100 and how many days?
It was close to 140, so almost half a year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so like on those longer age, like the 45 day, like is that it's a very strong, you said like a earthy flavor, like pungent.
So I wouldn't necessarily say pungent because that could be construed a couple different ways.
Okay.
But when we say earthy, it's kind of got that nutty, just rustic taste to it. I guess one of the ways, you being a hunter, you know the wafers that some people will use to kind of mask their scent.
Sure.
The earth one. If you were to smell that, that could be sort of the tone of some of the meats.
Okay.
But some people get like that nutty flavor. Some people get more of a blue cheese taste. It's just how, like I said, we can manipulate some of it, but some of it's just as it goes, it kind of transforms into its own aspect.
So each piece is kind of a little different in some different in some
Yeah.
subtle
Yeah,
ways.
because one piece, if say we put a whole ribeye in there, one will have more fat than the other one.
Right.
So that whole composition and the 45-day process breaking down, that could affect it as well too. So
This is amazing. And this all started from you guys just kind of aging your own steaks in the garage.
Yeah.
like, what was it, 6 years ago now?
Yeah.
About 6 years ago,
We were
right?
some friends that really enjoyed meat, and we just kind of put a package together. I started doing a lot of research online and found there's a company that makes a bag that kind of takes the guesswork out of it. So you put it in the bag, you vacuum seal it, and you put it in your fridge. You open and close your fridge for however long you want, just like normal, and it kind of allows the air in, but it doesn't allow the bad stuff in, and allows the gases to go out of the packaging and not create any issues. But that's how we started, and then we just kind of kept evolving.
It's fascinating. I love hearing stories about that, about businesses. That's like, oh, I started in the basement. We started in the garage.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
How did you, like, what made you guys decide that, like, hey, we've got a business here? Or what, like, were a lot of people coming over and coming to barbecues and tasting
Yeah,
these
we
amazing
were on like a monthly rotation of, at one point, probably got up to 24 people that we were doing this for.
steaks? Yeah.
And then word of mouth got out. We had a restaurant during track season a couple of years ago. They ended up buying from us, and they ended up purchasing a few $7,000 of meat from us.
Wow.
So we were like, oh, we're actually onto something here. And then we started putting a business plan together. Went through all the financials. Stuff was checking out, but then COVID happened, so we kind of put the brakes on it a little bit.
Yep.
And then during the whole COVID process, Kenny and I can both agree that our jobs changed and the corporate structure changed a lot, and we had enough. And one day I had a conversation with my stepdad. He says, if you don't do it, you're going to regret it forever. So
Right.
And then Aaron came to me and was like, look at the amount of time we're spending breaking this down, cleaning it up, cutting it up, and getting it prepared for everybody. He's like,
Yeah.
this is a business. We can make something of this. And we just kept talking from there, and here we are today.
How many steaks do you think that you sell like a month now? From the aged ones?
Dry age ones.
Yeah.
So I can tell you over the weekend, we probably sold 40 to 50 this weekend.
Yep.
So I would say,
obviously on top of everything else you're doing, but
yeah,
just the age stuff.
Our age stuff, it's a very small window.
Yeah.
Percentage of what we actually do here. That's how we got started, so that's why we named our shop Saratoga Dry Age Cuts.
Yeah.
And that's what our original passion was. So,
and we have found that a lot of people, when they first come in here, because of our name, they think that everything in the case is dry aged, and they don't know about it, so they're asking questions. And that's when we kind of pump the brakes, explain to them the majority of the stuff that's in the case is fresh, and we cut most of the dry age to order.
Yeah, okay.
We have found recently that if we cut a whole loin, vacuum seal it, put it into the case, it goes quicker. But for the longest time, everything was cut to order. That way, if you want a 1-inch thick steak, you want a 2-inch thick steak, we can cut it however you want. And even though we're still we do put some into the case already done and ready to go, vacuum sealed, we still have some if someone wants a specific size that we can cut for them.
So like you'll put like a whole tenderloin in there and age a whole tenderloin and then cut it?
Yep. So right now we have probably 20 or so loins in there that are aging. They'll be scheduled to be ready this weekend, the weekend after that. So we kind of have to predict the future, and that's hard in this business to do.
Yeah,
but for the most part, we keep it lighter because we'd rather sell out than have too much and we're just sitting on it. So, but
Yeah.
during Christmas we'll do dry aged prime rib, and that's a big hit for us as well. So,
I bet. I mean, who doesn't love prime rib? You
and
know?
one thing I can say is that dry age is significantly more expensive than regular beef, but
Sure.
because of the process, you have to use a lot of electrical for the cooler, and because there's shrinkage to the meat,
Yep.
and trimming, you lose about somewhere 25 to 30% of your original weight of the beef during the dry aging process. So that's where that cost rises
Yeah.
during the process.
Well, and I have to imagine too, like you've got to be able to, when you're aging something like that, like you kind of have to be able to hedge your bets a little bit against loss, right? Like at some point you may age it too long or something may happen, right? Is that a thing or?
Yeah, if you age it too long, like it gets to a certain point and the whole loin will just shrink down completely, and you're just
What's it-
wasting.
Is that just like moisture loss, basically? Like, is
Yeah,
it just
moisture and
kind of
blood loss. Yep.
slowly dehydrating over
Yep.
time?
Yep.
Got it. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, when you hold a normal steak in your hand, it'll flop over.
Yep.
You hold a dry aged steak in your hand, it will stay straight.
Really?
Yep.
Oh man, I got to come in and get one of these things. Sounds amazing. Uh, so, and you said, so you opened after, what year did you open? 2021?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
been open about
Yeah.
3 years?
August of 21.
Oh, nice. So almost exactly 3 years you've been
Yep.
open. And so obviously you've seen some changes and you've expanded, and it sounds like I think you said you have some employees. Tell us a little bit about that growth over the last few years.
Um, what we found um, is that the customer doesn't mind paying for a product as long as they're getting a good product. We were very worried with COVID and the prices being a little bit higher, that customers weren't going to want to spend the extra money, but we made an emphasis on only bringing in the best products and the best ingredients for our items that we make. Even our rubs, we always use the best spices. When we do subs and sandwiches, always fresh, like tomatoes, fresh romaine lettuce. We don't use the shredded stuff. It's always the top end product that we bring in whenever we're making stuff. So we don't really skip corners. We always try to make sure it's the best because you can taste the difference in it.
Yeah. Well, again, like if you're looking for affordable and low money budget stuff, right? You can always go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Right. Don't need to compete with what they
Yeah,
got.
there are people come in here and they're like, these prices are high. I'm like, all right, well, the grocery store's down the road.
Yeah. Right.
Let me know what you think, and I'll see you again.
Yeah. Side by side comparison, right? What and I know that you said, and it's just I love this whole story too, because it's like the American dream, right? Like
Yeah.
you're working for the man, so to speak, and then you got this hobby, and then you're turning it into a business and growing it over in a short time. I know you said you're doing an expansion. What's the expansion that you guys are working on right now?
We're putting in a full kitchen so we can really focus on prepared foods. Our sub business has gone through the roof recently, and then we can start doing hot subs and sandwiches as well.
Then I would say I thought that I saw on, might have been your Facebook or your Instagram, that you have a whole sandwich menu.
Yep.
So how did that all come about? I love the pivots, and the service ads that small businesses do as they grow and mature, so to speak.
Well, we always wanted to do subs and sandwiches, but we didn't want to do it right when we opened because Kenny have always had, I have thought about doing certain things, but we don't want to bite off more than we can chew.
Yep.
So we do our thing and then we perfect it, and then we do our next idea and then we perfect it. So subs started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Now. So we didn't do subs for the first year, and then we started doing it. And I did a lot of research on delis down in New York City. Everybody knows New York City has some of the best delis in the world. They make the sandwiches. So I did a lot of research on that, on the style that they make their sandwiches. And again, to the best product, we bring in boar's head meat, which not a lot of places around here have boar's head meat. And
So
that's
good.
and that's what we use for a majority of meats on our sandwiches, unless it's like imported from Italy and stuff like that.
Do you have any like dry aged roast beef that you do on subs or anything like that?
No, nothing like that. No, that's a little overkill. That would be
Yeah.
like a really expensive sandwich. So
How about your
that's something you can
$85
do at
sub,
home.
right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. What and now where are you guys located? You have a physical brick and mortar.
Right off exit 11 of the Northway.
Yeah, is that the same plaza as Unbroken Athletics?
Yep. Right behind the stewards there at the roundabout. Yep, about a quarter mile off the highway.
Yeah, that's a new building too, a whole new facility, right?
Yep. Yeah, we were the second person in the whole complex when it first opened, and now every unit's occupied. So
Yeah, it's really been growing over there. It's all that whole exit over there is really turned the corner, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of business. What's and how many employees are you guys running right now?
During the summertime, we have a few more. I think we're up to what, 12 now?
Wow.
Yeah, we have a handful of full timers, and then we have a couple guys who work just 1 day a week, kind of just do as a side gig to get out of the house type thing.
Yeah. That is
And
amazing growth in such a short time.
yeah, it's kind of astonishing. We're the percentages of growth over the first couple years is kind of way ahead of schedule. We'll say.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, usually like you can hope for 5 to 10% growth year to year.
Yeah.
And we're averaging like 30%.
Yeah. Well, why do you think that is?
I can tell you one. Our employees, they're amazing. Their customer service aspect,
Yeah.
always very friendly, always give great opinions. I mean, there'll be a handful of times where customers will come in and they'll ask one of our employees a question, and Kenny and I will be standing there, and then the customer will ask me or Kenny because we're the owner, and we literally just say verbatim what our employees should say because they're spot on with their knowledge as well. And because of the higher end products that we do purchase when making all our grease and stuff like that, people know that they can have a very reliable meal and it'll be the same high level of deliciousness each time.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. You know, I've like we said a couple times where, you know, if you're looking for budget friendly or less expensive products, right? There's plenty of places you can grab a steak. Yes, is the demand just so high for that higher end product that people want good food? They want something that they know is going to be a better cut or whatever it is. Like, is that really what drives it?
I would say that, and I just feel like people don't like bad tasting food.
Yeah.
And I could tell you, on one hand, I can count the number of times we've gotten complaints about stuff tasting bad, and every single time we take care of that customer, and they're a regular customer of ours. So, and with the higher end prices, I can tell you, it's not like it's an astronomical amount. Like we run dinner specials throughout the week, where you can get like a dinner for two with your potato, vegetable, and main course. And sometimes it comes out to $24 altogether, and that feeds two people. Wow. And that's a lot of food. Like you're not going to be hungry afterwards too. So we have to use affordable options and still the high quality too as well. So it's that's one thing that people have said, like they can't even go to the store and get all the ingredients to buy it for what they just bought it for.
Well, yeah. So the sale, like, wow, that's about what I could do at home, right? For about the same price. So
yeah.
And it's pre-cooked or it's just prepped out and ready to cook?
So the steaks aren't pre-cooked. We buy those, we cook them or dinner, or we'll do like chicken cordon bleus or stuffed pork chops. But we'll also do like pulled pork, mac and cheese, all our potatoes. Those are already pre-cooked. You just got to warm them up. Vegetables, depending on the item, either you got to warm them up or cook them. But we make it very simple for the customer to cook them, where they literally just have to throw in the oven. We tell them, oven 20 minutes, done. Don't have to worry about it, no cleanup. So we try to make it as easy for the customer as possible, which is another thing they like, because it seems like everybody is busy nowadays. And by the time they get home or think about dinner, it's too late. So we give them the convenience of having a home cooked meal, but they didn't have to really cook it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So So what's the future look like for Saratoga Dry Age Cuts?
Well, we're hoping once we get this kitchen done, the pre-made catering will really bring us to the next level.
Okay.
And then we're eventually down the road open up a couple more shops. So
Yeah,
that's the plan.
franchise it.
Yeah. We want to do one closer to Saratoga. That was Kenny's and I's original plan, was to open up closer to Saratoga. But we have the thought process that if we open up in Saratoga, we have to know what we're doing exactly in Saratoga, because it's such a demand there that everybody expects you to be perfect right away.
Right.
So we wanted to figure everything out, figure out the business, figure out what we're doing, and to make sure we weren't rough around the edges, where in the future when we open up that Saratoga spot, we can kind of just copy what we're doing here and plant it up there and kind of just keep it rolling.
That's awesome. Execute, right?
Yep.
What if people are looking to learn more about you guys, they, whether it's the specials or just kind of what you got going on, how do they find out more about you?
They can either call us at the shop. We're more than happy to answer any questions over the phone, or they can go on to our Instagram or Facebook. We post daily on there, twice a day sometimes. We do weekly specials that we post on Monday for Monday through Thursday specials. And then every weekend we also do like a different special. This past weekend we had a ribeye steak special that came with a bunch of appetizers and meals. That was $89 for 2 people, which isn't bad for a high-end meal like they offered. Or we'll do like big bulk freezer deals on the weekends too, that customers can come in and fill up their freezer with.
Awesome. Well, listen, I can't wait. I'm coming in tomorrow, I think, and grabbing myself a 28-day and a 45-day aged steak. I'm gonna sit down and compare these two taste tests side by side. So
Awesome.
I'm excited about it, guys. I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us and tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And enjoy the day. Thanks everyone for listening and watching.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.